Dear Ascending Family, many of us may be sensing over this next year we will likely see the cracks in the old paradigms and systems grow wider. We are in a unique position during the bifurcation to begin to lay the seeds for the new cycle in ourselves. This is a time to ask ourselves what we truly value and examine anything that keeps us from living in alignment to those values. In the coming years, there will be opportunities for trustworthy people to rise to leadership, to help lay the groundwork to co-create global humanitarian-based systems. This newsletter will take a deeper look at the origins and manipulation of currency, how resources are stolen and redirected towards anti-life and enslavement agendas, and why poverty consciousness is one of the NAA's or negative alien agenda's preferred consciousness traps. It is vital to have a basic understanding of how the monetary system has been designed on the earth to work as an enslavement tool that traps people in materialism, consumerism, and poverty consciousness. The system of debt-based currency used as the current global monetary system was originally brought to the earth by the Alpha Draconis Orion Group. These entities have organized themselves on the earth in what is called the Black Sun Agenda. The Draco reptilians of the Orion Group view themselves as the most intelligent species in the universe and believe that Earth humans have descended from their biological seeding processes from multiple planets they have conquered. Therefore, they believe humans as well as the Earth are their personal property and have instituted the global slavery system via the indoctrination of debt-based currency. One should be aware that on many other planets, monetary systems do not exist, and all inhabitants born on the planet are considered free citizens with equal rights to flourish in the global society that is organized by that planet's system of government. A planetary system ruled by debt currency in which one has to pay for their basic shelter, food, and healthcare from birth is considered a prison planet. Therefore, when a person does not have an accurate context for how money, currency, and economies really work and why they were set up, they are not able to discern the many consciousness traps that are set for the common people. For the Orion Group to institute an effective human slavery system in which they would remain hidden at the top of the pyramid scheme and have total control over the assets of Earth, it required the majority of the masses be consumed by intense fears of survival, threats, and poverty. They engineered poverty consciousness in such a way to victimize humans into class or caste systems, in order to make them more pliable and easy to manipulate in the consciousness pin they erected around the earth. Poverty consciousness is directly connected to the social engineering of a slave race. It is important to understand that poverty consciousness is unnatural to the human race, and was specifically designed to conquer the minds of humanity, to accept world slavery and world war. People that accept poverty consciousness as a natural way of life become the puppets that carry out the enslavement program for the puppet masters. Poverty consciousness is formed from the set of beliefs, feelings, and attitudes and value systems that people have associated with their personal fears of safety, which they relate to a lack of money or the lack of acquiring material objects that necessitate their sense of security and protection. When a person feels that they are defenseless, endangered, or threatened by imaginary or physical forces, they can be led to do nearly anything, many times willing to commit harm to others or engage in immoral actions to ensure that they regain the perception of personal safety or security. A person with a fragile sense of self that is totally dependent on validation from the material world can feel mentally threatened at the slightest disruption of their reality bubble. Thus, they are easily mind-controlled. Poverty consciousness is the prime pressure point of vulnerability ingrained in all humans entrenched in the 3D mind control of materialism, and thus, it is exploited in every possible way by the controllers. It is easy to observe the depth of degeneracy some people are willing to submit to for acquiring any amount of money or perceived security. This is why it is the primary consciousness trap being set for human mass exploitation, triggering fears of insecurity, threat, and helplessness. It is essential to know that by exploiting poverty consciousness mind control in order to manipulate materialism in people, This triggers deep fear-based belief systems around personal security, safety, and self-esteem. Many people on the earth feel terrorized by obsessive thoughts of poverty and homelessness, even when it has not happened to them in their lifetime. This memory may be connected to other lifetimes, however. It directly connects to the collective unconscious memory of feeling defenseless to the full-scale alien invasion that occurred in Sumeria and Egypt. As a result, many humans today have a pathological need to find some version of security and safety within materialism, so they can manage the feelings of unconscious personal terror that are a result of feeling completely helpless when in danger. As a result of the materialistic pathology towards feeling unsafe, when people become obsessed with materialistic validation for security, they also become increasingly narcissistic, spiritually disconnected, and lose feelings of empathy. In the more materialistic societies, such as the United States, people obsessively shop, buying excessive amounts of good in order to increase their feelings of self-worth, or to distract themselves from facing unpleasant or challenging issues. Materialists tend to ignore the fact that the global consumerist economy is structured to exploit humanity and drain planetary resources for massive profit for a select few, while directly increasing the slavery, poverty, and suffering of the human race. Debt system enslavement. The primary motivation of controllers is to use threats and fears of personal safety in order to trigger insecurity in the people, which is used as a major mind control and manipulation mechanism to incite rampant materialism. In order to continually spread poverty consciousness on the earth, the Orion Group introduced a debt system of currency that would equate monetary enslavement with consciousness enslavement. This ensured that the promotion of wars and human suffering would be converted into massive profits for those in the ruling classes. They needed the ruling classes to carry out their enslavement agenda, and by rewarding them with massive financial and corporate monopolies, as well as access to unlimited cash reserves, the sellout of the human race was easily accomplished through human greed. Thus, the social engineering behind the death culture, described in December 2016's newsletter, specifically targets poverty consciousness in the unconscious mind of the masses in order to exploit them in ways that make them complicit with committing crimes against humanity. Through the mind control used to trigger poverty consciousness and addiction to materialism everywhere in the media, people are constantly sensing some level of fear, insecurity, or threat, which motivates them to excessively consume and buy. These same poverty consciousness-based belief systems continue to produce separative beliefs, perpetuating the cycles of violence, ignorance, hatred, victimization, and enemy patterning between the people of the earth. Poverty consciousness is an effective form of promoting the divide and conquer strategies of the NAA groups to maintain their control over the Earth's resources by routing people into different slave class systems. As an example, people that shop uncontrollably to buy excessive amounts of consumer goods or the latest trends are the materialist slave classes. They are slaves to material objects which keep them locked down in consciousness traps. During this time, it is very important to discern the low quality of forces that are behind the push for materialistic consumerism. Being able to see the unethical and harmful motivations of the rampant service-to-self mind control broadcast and being able to clear and neutralize poverty consciousness fears from taking control over your life are especially important at this time. Poverty fears are ingrained deeply in the subconscious mind, and they surface into the conscious mind as fear-based thoughts and feelings about personal safety that in turn manifest and multiply into even more poverty consciousness fears. Material poverty fears have been mentally programmed repeatedly into the unconscious mind of people since the alien invasion and are consistently reinforced from childhood to adulthood throughout working slave classes entangled in the controller pillars of society. It becomes the manifested reality for those people no matter what kind of material resources they actually have access to. Many people in Western society are taught to think that without an excessive amount of material things, they are worthless people. It does not matter how much wealth or money a person has, these factors are not actually related to the state of poverty consciousness. Many people have an abundance of material things, and yet they feel deep anxiety pushing them to accumulate even more material things. Poverty consciousness is a fear-based state. It is a trauma-based disease that exists inside the minds of the spiritually bankrupt, not the financially bankrupt. Many of the people with tremendous material wealth exist in states of poverty consciousness and chronic unhappiness, unable to cope with the pressure of maintaining their class position. Forcing people to pay for their genocide. A system of black magic money or controlled currency was established to monetize the death culture and is organized by the NAA in order to manipulate, exert control over, and enslave the citizens of the earth. Systems of currency used as the medium of exchange are generated through an assortment of anti-human consciousness traps that are designed to manifest more poverty consciousness in those unable to discern what is really behind the total control of global currency. Forcing people to pay for their genocide. A system of black magic money or controlled currency was established to monetize the death culture and is organized by the NAA in order to manipulate, exert control over, and enslave the citizens of the earth. Systems of currency used as the medium of exchange are generated through an assortment of anti-human consciousness traps that are designed to manifest more poverty consciousness in those unable to discern what is really behind the total control of global currency. Once again, at the top levels, it is not human, and much of the earthly resources still left are funneled off-planet. For thousands of years, planet Earth has been quarried and leached for every kind of resource, mineral substance, and chemical element known and yet to be discovered by both human and alien mining sources and their machinery. Some of the massive desert wastelands and canyons thought to be natural and declared as natural monuments and protected reserves are actually the result of ancient mining quarries digging up the earth, now deserted. Even today, there are dark money groups lobbying to overturn the Antiquities Act to get back into the Grand Canyon to mine for uranium, just as the aliens did in the past. Today, the ability to multiply money and profits to steadily increase wealth is highest in those people in the financial sectors that run and rule the economy through the corporatocracy and use whatever means necessary to maintain control over liquidity and unlimited access to the global money supply. These small groups of people have access to unbelievably large amounts of cash or liquid assets, and they are purposely programmed by the Orion Group control structure to monetize human suffering and pain by forcing the majority of the world's citizens to live in poverty and pay for their own genocidal holocaust. Deceptive propaganda, intimidation, and terrorism are the important tools used to push the global debt slavery program, which requires the participation of broad sectors of the corporatocracy, banking, and the world population in order to be successful. Perpetrators must hide their murderous intentions from the victims they intend to decimate. They generally become involved with creating inhumane laws veiled from public scrutiny that allow for their criminal behaviors without obvious detection. In order to evolve beyond a fraudulent system of manipulated currency while the power elite backed by the NAA groups profit from destroying the Earth's resources, we must understand how the current economic system was created for world domination and slavery that purposely monetizes and rewards that which produces global genocide. The current anti-human global economic structure has turned the Earth into a toxic wasteland, which is rapidly killing off many species. Citizens of Earth must awaken and stop allowing these corporations and those behind them to massively profit from perpetrating intentional genocide of the Earth. Poverty consciousness produces worthlessness. The perpetrators use poverty consciousness fears to trigger feelings of worthlessness in the human race in order to get people to acquiesce and be complicit in committing genocide against their own species and planet. If humans only find worth in money and materialism, they have no value placed on the human soul or life. Thus, genocide of certain groups is made acceptable. Poverty consciousness is a state of fear that is produced by belief systems and attitudes that form into value systems that promote materialism. It is the twisted association of value woven into thoughts and feelings that one has towards money or material possessions. Poverty consciousness has nothing to do with the amount of money, physical comfort, or material possessions a person has. Poverty consciousness is deeply rooted in fears of victimization, survival, insecurity, and limitations, as well as fears of death that include fears about our relationship to God and the universe. When a person lacks spiritual foundation or inner core strength, the most common energetic imbalances of the personality or lower 3 chakras triggered by NAA mind control are survival fears and poverty consciousness. Poverty consciousness is a mind control program shaped by the social engineering that is designed to get humanity to believe we are worthless and that we exist in a world where there is not enough for everybody. When the masses focus on the worthlessness of human life and the lack of resources needed to help all people thrive, it means someone else is stealing the resources and hoarding them for themselves. It is completely obvious for everyone to see the exorbitant excesses of wealth and resources that those in the power elite receive by continuing to enforce the NAA infrastructure to monetize human suffering, maintain the slave classes, and make the earth a toxic dump. The mind control has been so effective throughout many generations that many of us were born into families who believed they had to accept poverty and abuse, or that wealth is not spiritual, or had taken poverty vows. Additionally, poverty consciousness has a long history on the earth since the NAA invasion, and as such it also holds miasmatic imprints that have been passed down ancestrally. Poverty consciousness is a system of fear-based belief that is seated in low self-worth that has been inherited, conditioned, and reinforced by mind control into a learned brain pattern to accept anti-human agendas. The pattern of recurring thought forms and unconscious beliefs around the fear of survival form into energy patterns that project poverty consciousness, which is used as a tool to trigger deep insecurity fears around survival and death. Thus, humans are easily led into the pen of controlled spiritual oppression. When one can see how poverty consciousness is used as a mass tool for spiritual oppression, slavery, and generating irrational fears, it is easier to identify when it's happening and consciously choose to reprogram fears into unconditionally loving behaviors towards the self and others. A person cannot effectively shift poverty consciousness and survival fears until they see its mechanism clearly and understand how it is operating inside of themselves. Materialism and consumerism. When we become more aware of how poverty consciousness is being engineered into the materialistic minds that power up and feed into the machine of the global consumerism economy, we can see one of the main goals is to keep individuals feeling a constant pressure and concern over gaining material possessions and assessing their access to resources that equate into personal status, security, or power. By specifically targeting and spreading poverty consciousness fears designed to generate insecurity, doubt, and desperation in the masses, they fuel the deification of materialistic values throughout the world. As a result of the social engineering used to deify excessive materialism as the antidote to poverty, consumerism becomes the main world religion, which capitalizes on the insecurity and survival fears in people in order to continually sell and market assembly lines of product. Materialistic values powering up consumer cultures glorify and breed narcissistic personalities that have little to no empathy for other people. People that are materialistic tend to equate their value, worth, and esteem on their accumulated wealth, status, and possessions. Hence, they also constantly measure others on a similar class scale in order to equate other people as lesser than or greater than themselves, dependent on how much external wealth or power that person has. Materialism is used to maintain class systems of control and the hierarchical structure of power that is based on who has all the money, power, or perceived value. People that are materialistic tend to have highly ambitious, competitive, arrogant, and aggressive behaviors and are deeply concerned with issues of personal adequacy. Thus, they will compromise ethical and humane behavior in order to accumulate the wealth and possessions they want, in order to feel more powerful. That is the big setup on the earth. A person that highly desires wealth and external validation of self-worth will have to play with the power brokers in the NAA game in order to get it. This means they must make the deal or Faustian pact to give up personal sovereignty and many times prostitute themselves because of who is really controlling the financial structure. The first thing these dark forces do is find that ambitious person's pressure point and work to compromise personal integrity and derail spiritual actualization in order to exploit addictions and weaknesses through psychological and emotional blackmail. An addicted person is a weak-minded person that is easily possessed, therefore is easily manipulated by their uncontrollable impulses until they become so fully corrupt their physical body is used to satisfy the whims of dark forces that are controlling their addictions. This is the main reason why many materialistic people become incredibly insecure and desperate to maintain their wealth and power. They fall prey to their personal addiction and indulgences, which lead to their rapid spiritual decline, which exasperates even more unethical and criminal behaviors. The entire current economic system is based on mass marketing the psychology of consumption and buying excess amounts of products by triggering poverty consciousness and materialism in people. It doesn't matter what you buy or how you buy it. The corporations just want everyone to buy, even if you don't have the money and have to beg, borrow, or steal to keep buying their products. Materialistic indoctrination comes in many shades of intensity that are revealed within a person's belief system and unconscious behaviors. When a person has made materialistic goals their primary objective, it is easy to observe how that materialism evolves into thought obsessions that wholly dominate their perceptions, attitudes, and behaviors in the external world. Materialism is to place one's primary values upon material possessions and physical comfort, making them much more important than anything else, therefore discounting the importance of focusing upon spiritual, ethical, or humanitarian values. The controllers continually shape the global society into the general world view of purely materialistic assumptions that what we can see in matter is all that exists. Thus, there is nothing else beyond matter. If we believe materialism is the only true nature of reality, we are easily led to think that the pursuit of material things is more important than anything else. If a person believes that getting material things equates to their personal survival, they will do anything, say anything, and potentially hurt anything in order to get what they believe they need to survive or to feel happy. If the meaning of life is about materialism, why should I even try to live a moral or ethical life? It is very easy to corrupt and fragment the mind and soul of a materialistic individual that is obsessed with selfish greed and the pursuit of monetary wealth in an extremely corrupt system. Therefore, this selfish thought form is targeted into the minds of humanity to spread corruption, greed, and poverty consciousness in the human mind and heart, which is ultimately harmful to all people. The illusion of the rule of law. The rule of law is the legal principle that the law should govern a nation of people equally, rather than be governed by arbitrary decisions made by those with selfish interests to gain, such as individuals that influence society, are in public office, or are government officials. Rule of law implies that every citizen, no matter what their position, rank, or wealth, is subject to the law, including the lawmakers, bankers, intelligence agencies, and politicians themselves. If we consider an intelligent debate about how materialism and consumerism have become the primary world religion at a terrible cost to those less privileged, it is easy to see the conflict of interest that occurs when the pursuit of profit and materialistic consumerism is pitted against the rule of law. When a society is based upon promoting the materialistic consumer culture at any cost, without regard for the value of human life or life on earth, massive corruption, bribery, and criminality is the immediate result. All one has to do is follow the trail of massive amounts of money, payoffs, criminal actions, and excess toxic dumping to note the lack of accountability to the law. It is a common-sense equation that is clearly evident by anyone who cares to actually look at what is happening in the world stage. There is no rule of law, yet the illusion is created by mass media deceptive propaganda promoting the belief system that we are all subjected to the laws that are supposed to be designed to protect us and protect the earth resources. As a race of people that are purposely hypnotized by survival and poverty consciousness, we look to those assigned with authority and with the supposed expertise to protect us, when in the larger scheme they are actually a part of the structure that want to kill us off. The medical system does not want us healthy and well. They profit when we're sick. The educational system does not want us to know our real history or how to think independently, as their grants come from maintaining the NAA rollout version of the past. The banking system does not want us to be out of debt or interest obligated, as we can be easily controlled when we are drowning in debt. The media and press do not want to actually pursue journalistic truth, but instead report news as sponsored consumer advertisement spots. Religion doesn't want us talking to God without an intermediary and provides a long list of do's and don'ts because we could shame ourselves and go to hell. The point is, the masses are not told the truth in any way, shape, or form. We endure complex webs of gaslighting to invalidate our inner guidance and interfere with what our heart-based intuition tells us. The laws are designed for those at the highest echelons of power who run the black magic money system and rule the economy by pushing through and manipulating the most cash flow in both legal and illegal ways. The reality is that too many people are making money by destroying what we have, by monetizing human suffering and supporting rampant criminal actions. The world economy has become based on processing the massive proceeds that are the result of criminal actions that increase human poverty, violence, and slavery, rather than doing the ethical work necessary to provide a humanitarian-based economy that shares the return of equity by investing in the people. Legalized theft. Most people can feel that something is not right with the world economy and monetary systems. It is clear that very few people receive massive profits and unimaginable wealth, while the majority of people endure increasing financial struggles and poverty. Every society on earth has created some form of currency for value exchange, but it is the everyday working people that make that currency actually have value. Through our time, energy, ideas, and talent, the expenditure of our energy is what converts into some form of value exchange that is represented by currency. However, what we work for is valued to pay off mounting ceilings of massive debt that were placed there by the power elite bankers to keep the average working person and their children indentured servants. The American-based currency system is established on increasing deficit spending or growing massive debt, which at some point will reach its tipping point and collapse the current economic system. The strain of the economic collapse that is based on the fraudulent money system is not something to fear, as we realize it will be necessary for the shift in consciousness to occur. This time in 2017 can be an opportunity for trustworthy people to rise to leadership to help lay the groundwork to co-create a global humanitarian-based economic system that truly supports and invests in its citizens. We need more leaders that are not motivated by large amounts of cabal money or materialism, but sincerely understand that the creation of personal wealth starts with development of the inner sustaining self. We must invest in people first. From this important foundation, a new global currency or monetary fund will need to be circulated. That is not in the hands of those that have been responsible for the legalized theft over the last 100 years. The power elite own the world's largest banks and are also the shareholders that own the Federal Reserve, which funnels wealth from the working population to the government and then back to the banking sector at a large profit. The Federal Reserve is not a federal agency or related to the central government, as it has corporate stockholders that receive dividends. The Federal Reserve is a private corporation with owners. This is a fraudulent system that causes great disparity between the rich and the working class. It is a form of currency enslavement used to steal the prosperity away from the people. The debt-based currency system empowers and benefits those who created legalized theft in the guise of an economic system, a system designed to transfer all of the purchasing power to the banks and the government, while leaving the working people with the burdens of debt. The purpose is to confiscate the accumulative wealth of the people and communities and funnel it back to those in centralizing power during cycles of controlled economic depression. This is when the bankers take their cut of the cash supply and take ownership control over many different companies and assets that are forced into short sale. It is the local communities that suffer when resources are sucked out of neighborhoods and back into the centralized power system of a few massive corporate conglomerates. We are the greatest threat to the survival of this corrupt monetary system, and an informed and aware public is what can dismantle this fraudulent system. When we know how it works, the system relies on the fact that most people do not understand how our monetary system works. However, we also must understand the people behind this fraudulent system are using black magic principles to keep the currency circulating in power. The black magic system driving the currency is backed up by the NAA, who want to keep the human race bound as indentured servants and slaves by any means necessary. Black magic money. Most people are not aware that the US dollar and the paper it's printed on is printed with hidden esoteric symbols that energetically connect into the 4D and 11D Stargate and the ancient Egyptian timelines from the point of the alien invasion 5,500 years ago. This is to pay homage to the Luciferian Belial sons, claiming them in the monetary system as the progenitors or owners of the human race. It signifies the prophecy or promise that at the end of the time cycle, they will return to Earth to reclaim their subjects and take them to another planet. The 11D Stargate is in the United Kingdom and is where the centralized global financial control exists, hence its relevance connecting to the meaning coded onto paper money. Many of the symbols that are printed on several versions of currency are credited to be Masonic symbols, and that is also correct. However, the Masonic lodges combined many of these symbols and the magical formulas from the later Ordo Templi Orientis (OTO) teachings of Aleister Crowley. The paper money printed for $1 currency is a unit of magical energy that in effect is animated into a magical talisman. Among the world currencies, the American dollar was set up to dominate the world market financially by activating the units of magical energy that were set up and organized by those intending to dominate the global wealth via magical connections made with the Thothian grids or black magic grids. That information was collated into an organized black magic system at the turn of the century by Aleister Crowley. According to remote session intelligence collected and guardian mentorship, Aleister Crowley is a key figure in cooperating with the NAA, starting from gray alien contact with an entity called Awas, made in Cairo, Egypt, in April 1904. Thothian Anunnaki language that is based on Enochian language of the original creational God code was given to Crowley at the turn of the century in order for him to be the human embodiment that was necessary to bring this black magic language into the physical earth realms, which continued the Atlantean Brotherhood War and its Atlantean conspiracy into this reality system. Crowley was manipulated through his own massive ego, patriarchal superiority, greed, egomaniacal selfishness, and sexual deviance to install a vast circulatory system of ley lines of control for NAA interests. This is synonymous with the base structure used by satanic forces which run the reversal energies into black magic grids. He was groomed in the United Kingdom, the location of the last of the lost Atlantean colonies from 11,500 years ago, with the government heads mentoring him to be in special operation for the Black Sun program and the Sons of Belial forces, which were trained by the British Secret Service. He was a primary operative used for directing psychological spiritual warfare for the purpose of mind-controlling Hitler for the Black Sun programs, and received much earthly power for his cooperation on multiple dimensions. He was one of the first intelligence operatives that set a precedence for black operations to develop psionic abilities mixed with black magic in order to kill targets remotely. Thus, Crowley was used to install and help run a series of portals and grid networks that allowed the Draco to get access into the planetary field, and this system of collective consciousness black magic grids is what has been controlling the United States money supply since 1912. The members of the Federal Reserve Board and those running the black magic money system are essentially sorcerers. They have set up a legal way to conjure wealth out of nothing and decide how to distribute it at will to control the global economy according to their desires. Over time, the reversals in the money supply accumulated into increasing chaotic and negative patterns that activated Egyptian money curses. Many of us have seen what intense greed and love of money can do to a person as they turn into a shadow creature, the manipulation of black magic in the money supply and conjuring the world of forces for service to self purposes without regard for the consent or consequence on others, as designed to increase world slavery and bring in the Antichrist forces. Thus, at the higher games of power and control required to accumulate massive wealth, it's easy to get possessed by these dark forces and then perform a necessary role that helps the NAA serve their genocidal agendas. Money curses. Every time we touch money or exchange money, we have been dealing with Egyptian curses and anti-human black magic that is designed as a consciousness trap in materialism. We have been born into a debt-based structure that has been enslaved by something ancient that has been hidden from everybody yet is everywhere, and we can't get away from it because it's interwoven into all the pillars of society. Current humans do not have many alternatives in fully detaching ourselves from the necessity of paying for our basic human needs. So the first step is empowering ourselves and understanding exactly what this debt-based currency is designed for, and refuse to be in consent with its origins. The Egyptian overlays that represent the full-scale alien invasion that began humanity's false written history is encoded into the value of the debt currency. It is embedded in the stock market, running the banking system, and entangled in everything that we have to pay for, rent, bills, and all the obligations of debt that direct us energetically into the exact point of our enslavement that began with an Egyptian curse. The primary energy force that is harvested from human beings to maintain power in these small groups of power elite behind the main governing financial structures are drawing upon a regular source of magical power from the NAA invasion in Egyptian timelines. By doing that, they circulate more karmic exhaust and more black magic curse, the more people feed into the monetary enslavement structure. Thus, the global currency is designed to gather massive wealth towards those who use the service to self and Antichrist pattern, while repelling it away from those who are truly in service to others and Christic. However, it is important to notice that this control system is not nearly as powerful since 2012, and much of the black magic currency is not as strong and repelling as they lose control over Earth territory. Once we understand the money system and how it works, we can become freed from its black magic and negative effects without being infiltrated by its design. First, we have to give up all fear-based motivations that serve materialism and money as our God, and put our full trust in our spiritual service and relationship with the natural laws of God. When we lead from our heart, we know that as a byproduct of our dedicated service in natural law, we are provided for and can build prosperity. We were not naturally born into poverty consciousness. We were programmed to be a slave and accept poverty consciousness. Our spiritual self comes first, and we must live true to ourselves in order to free ourselves from the fear of death and the slavery program in poverty consciousness. The importance of fair value exchange. As we evolve into the new paradigm and begin to update the meaning behind currency exchange and payment systems, we are in a transition towards evolving a new economic model. We are going to need to begin to practice that model in our day-to-day lives in order to apply it effectively. It is unlikely that the concept of currency will cease to exist in our lifetime on the earth. So we need to think about a type of currency that honors and cares for humanity, adds incentives for personal merit, virtues, expertise, and ethical qualities, while supporting the earth and placing the highest value upon life. Behind the scenes, there are alternative currencies in play for ensuring global stabilization of the nation's economies, yet the infighting within the cabal is raging over the perceived loss of territory and power. Money or currency represents something of value, both at energetic levels and tangible levels. The paper or coin has no value outside of what it represents to that society. Money or currency translates into some tangible creation, service, or achievement that the recipient of the money has generated in a value exchange through directing their own personal time and energy. Money represents the accumulated value of services and contributions that help to ensure the entire well-being of the community. We must spread that value in service to others in order to keep circulating the money energy that also contribute to the overall well-being of the community in their own ways. When we value human beings and what they contribute, the value is embedded in the work, service, or product that is exchanged. The money received should represent the fair value exchange of that work. Money received represents the value of your work, time, energy, talents, and contributions. When you spend that money, you are letting go of the value created and honoring the value another person has created. We exchange our value for another person's value, and that circulates exchanges of energy between people and systems of energy. In order to function, fairness, ethical conduct, and trustworthiness is critical in that there is a fair distribution of resources between all parties involved that is based upon the time and effort made. Equity in a system means that there is a direct link between the value associated with one person's actions and the value associated with another person's actions. All people are component parts of the entire system of energy that is equally valued for their contribution, and this is needed to function well. Communities or systems of energy in organizations rely on collaboration, cooperation, and fair value exchange in order to thrive as a community resource and remain available to those who value and participate with it. In the current debt-based monetary system, most people do not have value for themselves. They have no value or appreciation for others or their hard work, or the time and effort it takes in directing energy and effort towards something being created. When people do not hold value for energy or for others' time and efforts through self-entitlement or lack of value in themselves, they become energy vampires that siphon energy and stop the flow of circulation. Any system of energy, such as an organization that has too many people that are energy vampires or refuse to contribute, and that group does not hold value for the services or does not want to engage in a fair value exchange, the overall energy drain can kill the organization. The organization or service becomes unsupportable with too many people that refuse to circulate a fair value exchange. This is why it's critical to weed out energy vampires and re-educate them beyond poverty consciousness to learn how to become competent enough to become a productive member of the community. As humans learn to develop emotional competency, they develop self-worth and can value other people's time, energy, and efforts in order to contribute. This energetic concept is crucial to understand in any organization. In the current 3D mindset, giving people free things that they have no value for is disastrous. It drains precious resources and is extremely wasteful and unproductive. The key component for humanity to learn in this economic shift is to appreciate human life and natural resources, while learning how to offer fair value exchanges that contribute to the whole community. To shift the economic model, we have to listen to what people need and not give them things they have no value or use for. Many of the politicians in power are totally out of touch with what people really need in order to have an increased quality of life. When we orientate ourselves to be of service to the whole and we cultivate our talents and act authentically, caring for others and applying effort to improve ourselves, it is a natural byproduct to manifest more prosperity and happiness. Flourishing in the new energy. As we may be dismantled from the old anti-life structures that have pervaded the economic system, to be successful going forward, we have to transform our personal values in the ways we have exchanged our energy and our currency. We have the opportunity to realign currency with what we truly value and to direct it in ways that support life force, peace, and prosperity. Even if we have pennies to our name, we have to value ourselves and others without resentment or bitterness. We have to learn the strength and discipline in maintaining fearlessness in the now moment and not hoard things from fears of poverty consciousness. This experience of feeling financially insecure, although it can feel terrifying, teaches us to learn how to be inner-directed and cultivate our spiritual connection to lead us forward first and foremost. If we master this uncertain state by maintaining peace and calm, we can listen to guidance and be led in the right direction. Patience is required as delayed gratification teaches the ego that it is not in control anymore. The creation of new currency formats will be explored and developed much more progressively during this phase of transition. The recent changes in the new energy architecture since the end of 2012 will finally support balanced energy exchange for those human beings that sincerely support good and services with intentional humanitarian values. We have to better understand the corruption and satanic ritual used to control the world money supply and consciously override its control over us. Learning to bless ourselves and bless money while changing our values about money is a potent way to begin to positively change the distribution of money supply that we have right now. There are some common ground rules to understand going forward, in learning that you will be provided for when you commit to serve your spiritual values through a service to others orientation, even when it may look dismal and impossible on the external. Sometimes you may feel that you are in a dead-end job so you can spend your free time developing your inner knowledge and clarity of self. Getting past poverty consciousness fears and clearing feelings of dependency on materialism may take some time. Becoming aware of where there are weak spots where there is poverty consciousness is the first step in learning to strengthen yourself to face these fears and go beyond them. If you are in a forced hiatus in earning revenue, reflect on how you can create value exchange with humans that value life force. Refocus and revalue all poverty thoughts as not your own, but as reptilian mind control in order to engineer a slave race. Override those thoughts with feelings and inspirations of freedom, creativity, and untapped human potentials as inner sustaining life force expressing through your mind, body, and spirit. Here are some guidelines to remember in creating value exchange currency in the new energetic architecture. Intend to establish a clear value exchange and purpose in all professional and personal relationships. Honor all transactions you make as win-win scenarios rather than winner-loser. Be fearless with parting with currency or money in every transaction, even if it's bills. Develop better communication skill and open the dialogue for absolute clarity with exchanges and expectations that may be discussed beforehand between parties involved. Payment given is intentionally exchanged at full 100% value of currency transacted. Do not devalue who you are paying or the service and goods you are paying for. Set the intention to receive currency from only those who truly value you and your service. Bless and sanctify all resources that you have with an appreciation for life. Be grateful. If a payment is received with negative energy or devaluation, bless the transaction at 100% value and release the negativity cord between the parties exchanged. The way exchanges based on poverty consciousness were commonly made in the past, such as vampirism deals, selling your soul for money, deceit, or manipulation to suck something out of another, is not tolerated. Dressing up a product you do not believe in or doing work that is not aligned to your personal spiritual development will be felt as dead energy. If we do not address the dead energy, we may have energetic consequences to that decision. Achieving a healthy self-esteem and personal worth by aligning ourselves to soul-worthy goals and inspiration is our daily practice of revaluing our personal priorities. The good news is that we do have every support in the universe to help us make these profound shifts into a supportive and loving outcome. We must understand that we are being asked to raise the bar. This year is going to increase the intensity to transform the old order, and this will target the economic structure and money supply. Do not let this scare you. Stay awake as we walk through the dark night on the planet, knowing this is a necessary part of the transformation. Revalue your priorities and revalue yourself. When it gets tough, focus on the 4 pillars. 2017 is going to be an intense year, and it may get rougher in the worldscape. As a result, we may need to grow a thicker skin but retain our heart softness with practicing compassion and empathy. Given all the various challenges we face today as part of the human race, it is clear we have no real control over the external, the larger environment, or the outcome. This means we must change all of our priorities to value the internal and intrinsic part of ourselves as the most critical parts to preserve and to feel happiness. This means a lot of what we control is how we think and what we move forward towards. Most of our happiness relies on our personal attitudes, no matter who we are and what level of spiritual development we have. All humans can relate to these pillars in order to remember how we each can find happiness while seeing or experiencing personal or global turmoil. The 4 pillars for being happy. Expansion. Focus on personal growth towards spiritual authenticity and having a variation of life experiences to create that expansion. Connection. Having meaningful human relationships and cultivating deep connections in our life. Gratitude. Practice appreciation and gratitude for what you have every day. Service. Being of service and making contributions to the larger whole, making a difference. Happiness and gratitude is an attitude that we all can create more of every day. There are many things that we are facing in the world today and in our own lives that are challenging and painful. This fact does not have to change one's ability to feel happy every day of our life, even while seeing the larger picture. As we become more expanded in our personal growth, we begin to experience the feelings of connection with all of life, and we then can choose to be grateful that we can make a difference through our intentional service to the whole. Slow and steady and easy. It will be up to each of us to use our wisdom and discernment and really feel where new levels of change can be made in our lives. It feels like there will be more opportunities in this next year to make value exchanges that increase the quality and value of our life. Even while it may feel like a tumultuous time in our life, we have support and we have the ability to increase value in ways that we did not before. Even though it may not look that way on the outside, we do have more life force available to us now. Having gratitude for what we have helps to multiply the value that we bring to our lives and is a part of exchanging and bringing more value to it. We will have to discipline ourselves not to fall prey to the pundits that the world is crumbling. There will be a lot of noise and distraction. Do not fall prey to the service to self-hypnosis. Service to others is becoming more anchored as the law of structure at the end of 2017. Realize there is enough for everyone and integrate this understanding into how you look at things. Whatever we are doing to create income, knowing where the tentacle and consciousness traps are will help us avoid the pitfalls of drama and fear. Following the law of one in service to others allows the universe to return those resources to us, where it cannot if we are caught in consciousness traps. As we uphold personal value and spiritual integrity and collaborate with spiritual forces in the coming year, try not to place any conditions on how any of it plays out. It never looks like what we expect, and the most aligned options often come at the 11th hour. Please only take what is useful for your spiritual growth and discard all the rest. Thank you for your courage and bravery to be a truth seeker. May we pray together for peace on earth in 2017. I am God, I am sovereign, I am free. Until next, stay in the luminosity of your avatar Christos Sophia heart path. Please be kind to yourself and each other. GSF.